Hey, it's Haley at Seamwork, and in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you how to do an armhole depth adjustment. So you might be thinking, Haley, what's an armhole depth adjustment? And I'm here to explain that to you and then show you how to do it. So an armhole depth adjustment actually adjusts the length between your shoulder and your underarm. And when this length is not quite right, you can have issues with mobility. You can't move your arms as well, or it could just be straight out uncomfortable. So let's talk about having an armhole depth that's too long for your body. If the armhole depth is too long, your armhole is going to sit too low. And that's a big problem because a too low of an armhole decreases your mobility. You really want that underarm seam to be up, in your armpit without being uncomfortable in order for you to get good lift and to be able to raise your arms within reason. So if your armhole is too long, you're going to see some bagging of fabric in this region and you're going to have poor range of motion. If you're finding this in your garments, you're going to want to reduce the length right around here. So what you can do is you can take some pins and kind of mock up how you want that to fit. Determine how much you want to pinch out. If your armhole is too high, it's just going to be like uncomfortable. It's going to be right up in your underarm. And that is also a problem because if it's uncomfortable, you're not going to wear it and you want to make things you want to wear. So if that's the case, you're going to want to lower your armhole. With this, if you made a muslin, you can slash your muslin and kind of mock up how much extra length you want, or you can eyeball it based on how much room you want to add underneath your armhole. Now that we've talked about what the adjustment is and how you know if you need it or not, I'm going to show you how to make it. Okay, so before we get started on this adjustment, I want to give a little bit of insight on what we're looking at now that we've switched to a two-dimensional view of our pattern. So this is our arm side, fancy word for an armhole. This is your sleeve cap. Everything that lives below these notches here, so this area, this is up in your armpit. So when we're adjusting armhole depth, which is basically a lengthen and shorten adjustment that's done across the chest and the sleeve, we don't need to remove room underneath here. What we're looking at removing room from is the parts that we can't see, the part above the armpit. So we're going to be working in this territory up here, not down here. All right, now that we're acquainted with our pattern, let's make some lines, some slash lines for ourselves. We are going to start by drawing a line on our bodice. This is our front bodice. This line is going to be perpendicular to the grain line, which is the center front of the pattern in this case, and is going to extend from the center front to the arm side. And this line is about 1.5 inches above my notch. And then I'm going to draw another line that corresponds to this one, but on my sleeve. So you can see that my grain line doesn't quite extend up this far. So I'm going to extend my grain line just to make sure everything is all squared up and straight in our final pattern. Now I am going to draw a line perpendicular to that grain line across my sleeve cap. So these two horizontal lines are my slash lines, and I'm going to cut along those. While I'm cutting, I do want to say that this adjustment will be made across the entire pattern, meaning the front, the sleeve, and the back. I can't fit the back on my table right now. but you'll repeat all this on the back. Another thing I want to mention is that I'm working with a pattern that has no seam allowance. This makes it a whole lot easier to adjust our pattern and true everything up accurately. So always remove your seam allowances before you get to pattern adjusting. All right, so now I've cut along my slash lines, and you can see I have this space here. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to add room should I need it, and it allows me to reduce room by overlapping these pattern pieces together. So regardless of whether you need more or less depth to your armhole, you will create these slash lines and then slash right along them. Let's talk about removing depth first. So in most cases, this is going to be an adjustment that's probably going to be under an inch. An inch would be pretty generous. So in this example, I'm going to remove a 1/2 inch of armhole depth. I'm going to draw a line parallel to my slash line here. That's a 1/2 inch away. This is why a gridded clear ruler is so nice. It makes this so easy to do. And then I'm going to do the same right over here. 1/2 inch. If I was working on my back piece too, which you will do if you make this adjustment, I'll just do it across all of them. All right, now what I can do is I can overlap my pattern pieces to remove that little bit of depth. And I'm lining up my center front and lining up along that slash line. And then I'll tape. You can see there's an itty bitty baby jog right there in my pattern that I just need to smooth out. And I'll just use a clear ruler and, oh, it's a curved ruler. I'm gonna use my curved ruler and just remove that little guy. It's like literally so small, it doesn't even wanna like hang out underneath the ruler. Teeny. Teeny, like I'm gonna shave off like a 1/16 of an inch there. All right. But you'll find that the more shallow a curve is, just like this one, it's not super curved line, the less smoothing you'll have to do. But when we move over here to our more dramatically curved sleeve, we'll have a little bit more adjusting to do. That's okay. All right. We're going to repeat all of this on our sleeve cap. I'm going to line this grain line up and line the cut edge along my guideline. And this is going to ensure that my sleeve doesn't get all cockeyed. I mean, even if it was by like 1/8 of an inch, it would probably make your sleeve hang a little funny. We don't want that. So just line it all up and then tape in place. All right. So now we just need to do a little bit of truing. You can see this sleeve needs a little bit more help than our arm side did. So what we want to do is we want to find a curve on our ruler that matches the curve our pattern's trying to kind of show us. Typically, your notch on your pattern piece is going on your sleeve is going to represent kind of where that sleeve goes from a concave curve to a more convex curve. And so we want to honor that and keep to those curves. So I want to make sure that above this line I'm using pretty convex curves. You can see that's kind of a good spot. That gives me a pretty nice transition. I'll do the same thing over here. good. We'll just need to extend our notches there just so we can see them once we cut everything away. I just eyeballed that part. All right, and then we can use our scissors and trim up a bit. So, trimming that away. Oh my gosh, it's looking more like a sleeve again. And same thing over here. Okay, look at that. Sleeve City. All right, cool. So this is how I would remove depth from my armhole. Once all of that is trued up, looking smooth, looking great, you would just want to add in your seam allowance again. And then of course, don't forget, repeat all of this on your back piece as well. And it'll look very much the same. Drawing that perpendicular line, slashing, reducing, truing, and adding your seam allowance again. Pretty easy. All right, so that's reducing depth. Let's talk about adding some. Okay. So if you need to add a little bit of room, everything's going to start out the same. You're going to draw those lines in, you're going to slash along them, and now we have some negative space that we can add some paper underneath. So grab yourself a piece of paper. We use craft paper here at Seamwork because you can buy it by the roll, relatively cheap. It's nice and contrasty so you can see what I'm doing in these videos. You can use anything. If you have just like some scrap printer paper around, use that. Use a newspaper, whatevs. Okay, so let's add a little bit of depth for those of us who need it. First, I'm going to start by taping down the bottom part of my bodice. You can kind of go about this a few different ways, and I'll explain that in a minute. So again, this is an adjustment that you're going to make in like very small increments, most likely. In this example, I'm going to add a 1/4 inch of depth. That sounds probably like not very much, but in something like this, it's going to make a big difference. So I am drawing a line 1/4 of an inch in parallel to that edge that I just taped down. And then next, I'm going to extend my center front line. This is going to ensure that everything lines up straight because again, we don't want this to be cockeyed. Now that we have our 2 guidelines in place, I can align my upper bodice with those guidelines and then tape it down. Okay, we're all taped down. Now I can take my curved ruler and I can just smooth that line out. Kind of join those 2 lines. Beautiful. Now we can do the very same thing over here on our sleeve. So tape it down. If you've ever lengthened a pattern, like a skirt or top, this probably looks super familiar. It's the exact same thing, just on a sleeve and a bodice and in a different location. Clear ruler, drawing a line parallel and a 1/4 inch away. If you need more than that, you add more. If you need less, you can add less. And then I, again, want to give myself something else to align my pattern piece with. So I'm going to extend my grain line. And I forgot to do that before I started. So I'm going to line everything up here, line these raw edges up, and extend my grain line through both of those so that it's continuous. I have something to line it up with, and then extend it here as well. This keeps me from getting crooked. I forget things too sometimes, lots of times. Okay, then we're going to tape it in place, aligning my guidelines up. Tape it all down. And then grab your curved ruler, and we're going to re-true this curve. So you can see here when I'm lining up my curved ruler, I have kind of two options. I can either shave a little bit off the cap, or I can add a little bit kind of below where that slash line is. In this case, because you're looking for more room in this area, I would err on the side of adding rather than taking away, because that's the reason you did this adjustment. You did it to add a little bit of room to your pattern, so don't take it away like somewhere else. That's my reasoning. It's a very small amount. May not make a huge difference in your end pattern, but that logic makes sense to me. All right, and then now that we're all taped in place, our lines are all trued, you can take your paper scissors and you can cut along those new lines and then add your seam allowances back in, and you have a beautiful pattern piece that has that extra armhole depth that you need. And as always, don't forget to do it on the back as well. And that is how you do an armhole depth adjustment. I hope you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing.